I should have known what was coming the moment I walked through the door. The entire family was already gathered in the living room. Mom, Dad, my sister Rachel and her husband Trevor, my brother Marcus with his fiancée. They all turned to look at me with that expression I'd seen 1,000 times before. The look that said I was late, unprepared, insufficient. "Nice of you to finally show up," Rachel said, not bothering to stand. "We've been waiting." I was actually 10 minutes early, but I didn't point that out. I'd learned years ago that facts didn't matter in this house. Only perception did. "Sorry," I said quietly, setting down the gifts I'd brought. I'd spent weeks finding thoughtful presents for everyone, including my 2 nephews. I noticed Rachel's eyes flick to the bags with what looked like disappointment, as if she'd hoped I'd show up empty-handed to prove whatever point she was trying to make. Dinner started normally enough. Dad carved the turkey. Mom fussed over the table settings. Marcus talked about his promotion at the tech firm where he worked. Rachel described the new kitchen renovation she and Trevor were planning. I listened, contributed when asked direct questions, and mostly tried to stay invisible. It was during dessert when Mom decided to strike. "Rachel was just telling us about the donation she made to the Children's Hospital," Mom said, her voice dripping with that particular tone of pride she reserved exclusively for my sister. $15,000. Can you imagine? We raised such a generous daughter. "That's wonderful," I said, meaning it. "The Children's Hospital does amazing work." "It's what family does," Rachel said, looking directly at me. "We help others. We give back to the community." There was a weighted pause. I could feel it coming like a storm rolling in. "You never helped this family," Mom said, setting down her fork with enough force to make the china rattle. "Your sister actually contributes. She helps with the grandchildren. She comes to every family event. She remembers birthdays and anniversaries. She calls me every single day." "Mom," I started. "And what do?" she continued, her voice rising. "You show up when it's convenient. You live in your tiny apartment, working your little job, keeping to yourself. You never offer to help with anything. Never ask if we need anything. Just absent. Always absent." Dad nodded slowly. "Your mother's right, Jennifer. Rachel's always been there for us. Even Marcus helps out when we need him. But you? It's like you're not even part of this family." Marcus shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. Trevor smirked into his wine glass. Rachel sat back with her arms crossed, looking vindicated. I smiled politely, the way I'd trained myself to do. The way I'd perfected over 6 years of sitting at this table, listening to variations of this same speech. "I understand," I said softly. "Do you?" Mom pressed. "Because honestly, Jennifer, I don't think you do. Your sister is planning to help us renovate the bathroom next spring. She's already committed $20,000. $20,000. That's what family does. That's what love looks like." I nodded, still smiling. My face felt frozen, like a mask I couldn't remove. "That's very generous of her." "It is generous," Rachel said sharply. "Unlike some people, I actually care about Mom and Dad's comfort in their old age. I actually think about someone other than myself." The words hung in the air. Everyone was looking at me now, waiting for me to defend myself, to argue, to prove them right by getting emotional. Instead, I stood up calmly. "Thank you for dinner, Mom. Everything was delicious. I should get going. I have an early morning tomorrow." "Of course you do," Rachel muttered. Always an excuse. I collected my coat from the hall closet, wished everyone a Merry Christmas, and walked out to my car. The December air was sharp and cold, exactly how I felt inside. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't call my best friend Sarah to vent, though I knew she'd be waiting to hear how it went. Instead, I sat in my car for a moment, letting the engine warm up, and made a decision I'd been avoiding for 6 years. It started in 2017, right after I'd landed my first major promotion at the financial consulting firm where I'd been working since college. I was 26 years old, finally making real money, and I felt like I was supposed to do something meaningful with it. That's when Dad called me. "Jennifer, honey, I need to talk to you about something," he'd said, his voice heavy with a kind of desperation I never heard before. Your mother doesn't know I'm calling. I don't want her to worry. My heart had clenched. What's wrong? Are you sick? No, nothing like that. It's just the mortgage. We refinanced a few years ago to help Marcus with his student loans, and the payments they're a lot higher than we anticipated. With your mother wanting to retire soon and my hours getting cut at the plant, we're struggling. I hate to ask, but he didn't have to finish. How much do you need? Just temporary help. Maybe a few months until we get back on our feet. The payment is $2,100 a month. If you could cover even half of that. I'll cover all of it, I'd said immediately.
Don't worry about it, Dad.
I'll set up an automatic transfer today. The relief in his voice had been palpable. You're saving us, Jennifer. You really are. We'll pay you back as soon as things stabilize. I promise. I'd set up the automatic payment that same day. Direct transfer from my checking account to their mortgage company, due on the 1st of every month. $2,100. I barely noticed it missing from my paycheck. I'd been living frugally, saving aggressively, investing wisely. 3 months later, I'd added their homeowner's insurance when Dad mentioned they were about to let it lapse. $175 a month. 6 months after that, I'd quietly started covering their utilities when Mom complained at Thanksgiving about the electric bill. Another $400 a month. Then the property taxes. $520 a month, averaged out. Then the HOA fees. $180 a month. By the end of the first year, I was paying $3,375 every single month to keep my parents in their home. Over $40,000 a year. And they'd asked me not to tell anyone, especially not Rachel or Marcus. They just worry, Dad had said. And they have their own expenses. Let's keep this between us. I'd agreed because I understood. Rachel had 2 kids and a husband who worked in sales, unreliable income. Marcus was still building his career. I was single, childless, with a growing income and no debt. It made sense that I'd be the one to help. Except it was supposed to be temporary. Year 2 came and went. The promises to pay me back faded into silence. I didn't bring it up because every time I saw my parents, they seemed stressed enough. Why add to their burden? Year 3, I got another promotion. Senior financial consultant, managing a portfolio of high-net-worth clients. My salary jumped to $180,000. The monthly payments became even less noticeable. Year 4, I made partner. My income jumped again. Base salary plus profit sharing put me over $300,000 annually. I started investing more aggressively, building a real estate portfolio on the side. 3 rental properties in 2 years. I was doing well. Better than well. And still, every month, $3,375 left my account for my parents' house. Year 5, something shifted. Rachel had started making comments at family dinners about how I didn't understand what it meant to struggle, how I didn't have real responsibilities like she did. Mom had started comparing us more openly. Rachel's volunteer work, her involvement in the kids' schools, her daily phone calls. I'd stayed quiet, kept paying, kept showing up. But year 6 was when it became unbearable. What my family didn't know, what I'd never told them, was that I wasn't just doing okay financially. I was thriving in ways they couldn't imagine. My position at the firm had evolved. I wasn't just managing portfolios anymore. I was identifying investment opportunities, structuring deals, building relationships with executives and entrepreneurs. I developed a reputation for spotting undervalued companies before anyone else saw their potential. 2 years ago, I'd made a private investment in a tech startup that a college friend was launching. $20,000 for a 2% equity stake. The company had just been acquired by a major corporation. My payout, $2.4 million. I'd taken that money and done what I do best. I'd invested it strategically. Real estate, index funds, 3 more startup investments. My net worth had crossed $4 million last spring, and I wasn't even 32 years old yet. But I lived in a modest 1-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood. I drove a 6-year-old Honda Civic. I bought my clothes at normal stores. I didn't post on social media about my success. I didn't talk about money at family dinners.
Why?
Because I'd learned early that my family didn't react well to my achievements. When I'd made partner at the firm, Mom's first comment had been, "Well, Rachel just became room parent for both her sons' classes." Now, that's an accomplishment. When I'd bought my first rental property, Dad had said, "Just be careful you don't get in over your head. Real estate isn't as simple as you think." So, I'd stopped sharing. I'd stopped trying to make them proud. I just kept working, kept building, kept paying their mortgage in silence. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was paying $40,000 a year to keep them in their house while being told I never helped the family. I was building a multi-million-dollar portfolio while being called selfish and absent. But I'd accepted it. Or so I thought. The morning after Christmas dinner, I woke up at 5:30 a.m. like always. I made coffee, went for my usual run, showered, and sat down at my laptop with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I opened my banking portal and looked at the automatic payment scheduled to process in 3 days. $3,375 to my parents' mortgage company and various utilities. I'd been making this payment for 72 consecutive months. 6 full years. That was $243,000. Nearly $250,000 paid silently, without recognition, while being told I contributed nothing. My hand moved to the mouse. I clicked Manage Automatic Payments. I selected each recurring transfer to my parents' accounts. And one by one, I canceled them.
Delete. 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 Delete.
It took less than 2 minutes to undo 6 years of financial support. I sat back and stared at the screen. My heart was pounding, but not with guilt. With relief. With something that felt dangerously close to freedom. I wasn't angry. I wasn't trying to punish them. I was simply done. Done being invisible while keeping them afloat. Done being called selfish while being their silent lifeline. Done accepting scraps of respect while funding their entire existence. I picked up my phone and texted Sarah. I did it. I canceled everything. Her response was immediate. Finally. How do you feel? Free. I typed back. Terrified, but free. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't send an explanation. I just stopped. The same way you'd stop watering a plant that kept insisting it didn't need water. 48 hours later, my phone rang at 7 a.m. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. She called again immediately. Then again. Then Dad called. Then Rachel. I was in a meeting with a client, so I silenced my phone and focused on work. By lunch, I had 17 missed calls and 12 text messages. Mom. Call me immediately, Dad. Jennifer, we need to talk right now, Rachel. What did you do? Mom is freaking out, Mom. The mortgage company called. They said the payment was rejected. Fix this now, Dad. This isn't funny. Call us back. I read through them all during my lunch break, sitting in my car with a salad I'd brought from home. My hands weren't shaking. My stomach wasn't churning. I just felt calm. I typed a single response to the family group chat. I can talk this evening. I'll call around 7. Rachel. This evening? Are you kidding? Mom. This is an emergency, Jennifer Marie Marcus. What's going on? I turned my phone to Do Not Disturb and went back to work. At 7 p.m. exactly, I called my parents' house. Dad answered on the first ring. What the hell is going on? He shouted, not bothering with pleasantries. The mortgage company says our payment was rejected. They're charging us a late fee. Your mother has been in tears all day. I could hear Mom crying in the background and Rachel's voice saying something sharp. I canceled the automatic payments, I said calmly. All of them. Silence. Then, you what? I canceled the automatic payments I've been making for the past 6 years. The mortgage, the insurance, the utilities, the property taxes, the HOA fees. All of it. You can't do that. Mom screamed, loud enough that I had to pull the phone away from my ear. We'll lose the house. Then you'll need to make the payments yourself, I said. Like you've been telling everyone you've been doing all along. Jennifer, listen to me, Dad said, his voice shaking with rage. I don't know what kind of game you think you're playing, but this is not funny.
You set up those payments.
You can't just stop them without warning. I can, actually. It's my money. I'm allowed to choose how I spend it. Rachel grabbed the phone. I could hear the struggle. Are you out of your mind? She shrieked. Do you have any idea what you've done? Mom and Dad could lose their house. They could be homeless. Then maybe you should help them, I said quietly. You just donated $15,000 to the Children's Hospital, which is wonderful. Surely you can spare some for Mom and Dad's mortgage. That's completely different. That was a charitable donation. I can't just. Can't what? I can't actually contribute to the family you claim to care so much about. I heard her gasp. Then Mom took the phone back. Jennifer, baby, please, she said, her voice cracking. I don't understand. Why would you do this? Did we do something to upset you? The question was so absurd I almost laughed. Do you really not know?
No.
I don't. Everything was fine at Christmas. Mom, at Christmas dinner, you told me I never helped the family. In front of everyone. You said Rachel actually contributes and I don't. You called me absent and selfish. I didn't. That's not what I... It's exactly what you meant. And you've been saying it in different ways for years. So, I decided you were right. If I'm not contributing, if I'm not really part of this family, then there's no reason for me to keep paying your mortgage. Complete silence on the other end. Paying our what? Dad's voice was quiet now. Dangerous. Your mortgage. Your insurance. Your utilities. Your property taxes.
交话费.
I've been paying them for 6 years. Every month, $3,375 leaves my account to keep you in that house. That's over $40,000 a year. $250,000 total. I heard someone gasp. Then muffled voices arguing. That's not. You never. We didn't ask you to do all that. Mom said. Yes, you did. Dad called me in 2017. He said it was temporary just until you got back on your feet. He asked me not to tell Rachel or Marcus because they'd worry. So I paid, and I stayed quiet, and I waited for you to get back on your feet. 6 years later, I'm still waiting. You should have told us. Rachel shrieked in the background. I'm telling you now. Dad's voice was cold. So what? This is blackmail? You want us to what? Grovel? Apologize? We're your parents, Jennifer. Helping family isn't supposed to come with conditions. You're right, I said. It's not. Which is why I helped for 6 years without asking for anything in return. Not money. Not gratitude. Just basic respect. Basic acknowledgement that I'm part of this family too. But at Christmas, you made it very clear that I'm not. So now I'm acting like it. This is insane. Rachel yelled. You're going to let Mom and Dad lose their house over hurt feelings? I'm not letting them do anything. Their house, their responsibility. Just like you said, Rachel, family helps family.
So help them.
You have the means. You just donated $15,000 to charity. Marcus just got a promotion. Between the two of you, surely you can cover a $2,100 mortgage payment. More muffled arguing. Then Marcus's voice. Jennifer, this is crazy. We can't just suddenly come up with that kind of money every month. But I could. I asked. For 6 years. That's different. You don't have kids. You don't have a wife. You don't have expenses. I have expenses. I just prioritize differently. I've been prioritizing Mom and Dad. Now I'm prioritizing myself. You selfish bitch. Rachel screamed. I hung up. My phone immediately started ringing again. I declined the call and sent a text to the family group chat. I'm not discussing this further tonight. You have until the end of the month to figure out the mortgage payment. After that, it's between you and the bank. I blocked all their numbers for the next 24 hours, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat on my couch in my quiet apartment. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I just sat there, feeling lighter than I had in years. The next morning, I unblocked their numbers to find 47 text messages waiting for me. Most were from Rachel, ranging from furious to pleading to threatening. Marcus had sent several trying to be the reasonable one, asking me to think about what I was doing to the family. Mom's messages were incoherent, rambling apologies mixed with accusations, Bible verses about honoring parents, desperate pleas. Dad had sent only one message: "You're dead to me." I screenshot all of them and saved them to a folder on my laptop labeled evidence. Then I called my attorney. "I need you to do something for me," I told him. "I need a full accounting of every payment I've made to my parents over the past 6 years. Every bank transfer, every bill I've paid on their behalf, everything. I need it documented, official, and notarized." "Are you planning to sue them?" he asked.
No.
"I'm planning to protect myself when they try to sue me." He understood immediately. "I'll have it ready by end of week." Next, I called my financial advisor. "Remember how we talked about diversifying my real estate holdings?" I said, "I want to move forward aggressively. I also want to increase my investment in the Sharma Tech Fund and the Rodriguez Development Project. Let's put together a strategy for the next quarter." "May I ask what's changed?" she asked carefully. "I just freed up $40,000 a year in my budget," I said. "I'd like to put it to better use." The third call I made was to Sarah. "I need you to be honest with me," I said. "Am I being cruel?" "No," she said immediately. "You're being sane. Finally. They're going to lose the house." "Are they? Or are they going to figure out how to pay their own mortgage like millions of other Americans do every month?" Rachel called me a selfish bitch. "Rachel has been calling you that in 1,000 subtle ways for years. At least now she's being honest." I laughed, surprising myself. "When did I become the villain in this story?" "You didn't. You just stopped being their ATM. They don't know the difference." For days after I canceled the payments, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Jennifer Morrison?" "Yes, who's calling?" "My name is Detective Sarah Chun with the County Fraud Division. I'm calling about a report filed by a Margaret and Robert Morrison. They claim you've been stealing from them." My blood ran cold. "Excuse me?" "They've filed a police report stating that you've been accessing their bank accounts without permission and making unauthorized withdrawals. They're claiming approximately $250,000 in stolen funds over the past 6 years." I was so shocked I couldn't speak for a moment. "Ms. Morrison?" the detective prompted. That's the opposite of what happened. I finally managed. I've been giving them money, not taking it. Can you prove that?"
Yes.
"Absolutely. I can prove every single payment."
Good.
"I'm going to need you to come down to the station and make a statement. Can you do that today?" 2 hours later, I was sitting in an interview room with Detective Chun and my attorney, walking through 6 years of bank statements. "So you're saying you voluntarily paid their mortgage for 6 years without any written agreement?"
Detective Chun asked. Correct.
"My father asked for help. I provided it. He asked me to keep it private from the rest of the family, so I did." "And they knew you were making these payments?"
Yes.
"My father called me every few months to thank me. My mother mentioned once or twice that she was grateful I was helping out. They knew." Detective Chun looked at the statements, then at my attorney's notarized accounting. "This is quite thorough." "My client is a financial consultant," my attorney said. "Documentation is her specialty." "And you stopped making payments on December 26th?
Yes.
After being told at Christmas dinner that I never help the family and don't contribute anything, I decided they were right. If I'm not contributing, there's no reason to continue the payments." Detective Chun made notes. "And they filed this report claiming you stole from them 2 days ago?" "Apparently." She sighed and closed her notebook. "Ms. Morrison, I'm going to be straight with you. This isn't theft. This is a family dispute over financial support. There's no crime here. So, I'm not being charged with anything?"
No.
In fact, given this documentation, if anyone was going to be charged with anything, it would be your parents for filing a false police report. But I don't think that's what you want. It's not. I'll close this case and let them know. I'd recommend you keep all this documentation in case they try to take you to civil court. They're going to sue me? Families do strange things when money's involved, she said kindly. Protect yourself. 1 week later, my parents received a formal letter from my attorney. It outlined, in excruciating detail, every payment I'd made over the past 6 years. It included copies of bank transfers, canceled checks, payment confirmations. It totaled $243,000 in voluntary financial support provided without any written agreement or expectation of repayment. It also included a statement that I was under no legal obligation to continue this support, that all payments had ceased as of December 26, and that any further harassment, including false police reports, would result in legal action. The letter concluded with an offer. I would forgive the entire $243,000 debt if they would sign a document acknowledging they had received this support and agreeing to cease all contact with me. I didn't expect them to sign it. I sent it to create a paper trail. Rachel called me 2 weeks later. Not from her cell phone, from her office. "We need to meet," she said. No greeting. No small talk. Why? Because Mom and Dad's mortgage is due in 10 days and they don't have the money. Because Marcus and I have been trying to figure out how to help, but we can't cover it long term. Because this family is falling apart. That's not my problem anymore. It never was your problem, she exploded. That's what you don't get. You made this your problem without asking anyone, and now you're punishing us for not being grateful enough. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just done helping.
Fine.
Then meet with us one time. Let us show you what you've done. Let us explain why this is so devastating. And if you still want to walk away after that, then fine. Walk away. I almost said no. But something in her voice, a crack in the usual confidence, made me pause. One meeting. Public place. This Saturday.
Fine.
We met at a coffee shop near my office. The whole family showed up. Mom, Dad, Rachel, Trevor, Marcus, even his fiancée, Stephanie. They looked awful. Mom had clearly been crying for days. Dad looked like he'd aged a decade. Rachel was tight-lipped and furious. Marcus just looked confused. I ordered a coffee and sat down across from them. "Talk," I said. Mom started crying immediately. Dad put his arm around her and spoke for both of them. "Jennifer, we owe you an apology. We didn't understand how much you'd been doing for us. We thought you were just helping with the mortgage for a few months, not everything. Not for years. I told you exactly what I was paying when I called," I said quietly. "You heard me." "We heard the words," Rachel interjected. "But we didn't believe it. We thought you were exaggerating to make us feel bad."
Sitter her.
"Why would I lie about that?" "Because you wanted to make yourself look better," she said. "You wanted to swoop in and be the hero who saved them when really what, Rachel? When really you should have been helping them?" She fell silent. Marcus cleared his throat. "Look, we've been going through their finances, trying to figure out how they got into this situation. And we found some things." He slid a folder across the table. I opened it. Bank statements, credit card bills, loan documents. My blood turned to ice as I read. "Is this real?" I asked. "We had a forensic accountant verify it," Marcus said quietly. "Yes." According to the documents in front of me, my parents had been spending recklessly for years. Vacations charged to credit cards. A timeshare purchased on a whim. A loan taken out to buy Rachel a car 2 years ago. Another loan for Marcus's wedding expenses. They'd been living like they had money because I'd been covering their basic expenses. Every dollar I paid toward their mortgage and bills freed up their actual income to spend on luxuries. "They owe almost $180,000 in consumer debt," Marcus said. "Not including the mortgage." I looked at my parents. "You told me you were struggling. You said you needed help just to get by." "We were struggling," Dad insisted. "The mortgage payments were too high. Because you kept borrowing against the house to fund everyone else's lives." I said, my voice rising for the first time. "You refinanced to pay Marcus's student loans. You took out a HELOC to buy Rachel's car. You've been using the equity in your house like a piggy bank while I paid the actual mortgage." "We're your parents," Mom sobbed. "We raised you. We sacrificed for you. It's not wrong to expect help from your children." Help. I stood up. "I gave you $250,000. I gave it silently, without conditions, without asking for anything back. And in return, you called me selfish. You told me I never contribute. You filed a false police report accusing me of theft. The coffee shop had gone quiet. Everyone was staring. I didn't care. You want to know the truth? I said, my voice shaking now. I could have kept paying. I could have covered your mortgage for the rest of your lives and barely noticed the money missing. I'm not some struggling single woman barely getting by. I'm a partner at one of the top financial consulting firms in the state. I have a portfolio worth over $4 million. I could have bought your house outright and not even blinked. Their faces went pale. But I won't. Not because I can't afford it. Because you don't deserve it. Because the moment I showed you actual documentation of what I'd been paying, instead of thanking me, you accused me of lying. Because when I stopped funding your lifestyle, you tried to have me arrested. Because you've spent 6 years taking my money while telling everyone I'm the selfish one. I grabbed my bag. You wanted a family meeting?
Fine.
Here's what I have to say. The debt between us is settled. I've forgiven the $243,000 you owe me. I won't sue you for the credit cards you opened in my name. Yes, Marcus, I saw those documents too. But in return, you leave me alone. No more calls. No more guilt trips. No more family dinners where I'm the disappointment. Jennifer, please. Mom reached for me. I stepped back. Sign the document my lawyer sent. Acknowledge what I gave you. And let me go. I walked out of the coffee shop and didn't look back. They signed the document 3 days later. In it, they acknowledged receiving $243,000 in financial support from me over 6 years. They agreed to cease all contact unless I initiated it first. They withdrew the police report and apologized in writing for filing it. In return, I forgave the debt and agreed not to pursue charges for the credit cards they'd fraudulently opened using my information. It wasn't forgiveness. It was a transaction. But it was closure. Sarah threw me a freedom party that weekend. Just the two of us, expensive wine, and takeout from my favorite restaurant. How do you feel? She asked.
Lighter, I said. Sad.
But lighter. Are you going to reconcile eventually? I thought about it. Maybe. If they actually change. If they actually see me as a person instead of a resource. But I'm not holding my breath. Good, she said. You deserve better. She was right. I did. 6 months after that final coffee shop meeting, I got a text from an unknown number.
Yeah.
This is Marcus. I got a new phone. I wanted you to know that Mom and Dad sold the house. They're moving into a smaller condo that they can actually afford on their retirement income. Rachel and I are splitting the cost of helping them with the down payment. I also wanted to say I'm sorry for not seeing what was happening, for not standing up for you, for letting them treat you that way. I don't expect you to forgive me or want a relationship. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what you did for them. And I'm sorry it cost you so much. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back. Thank you for saying that. I hope the new place works out for them. He responded immediately. Would you want to get coffee sometime? Just us.
No parents.
No drama. Just brother and sister. I smiled. Maybe. Let me think about it. Take all the time you need. I haven't responded yet. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. But for the first time in 6 years, the choice is entirely mine. And that's worth more than $243,000 could ever buy.